I believe if you were there at the end of the stream yesterday, I would have asked you to think about what you think a word is. So if either of you have an answer, if you've come up with an answer for what you think a word is, I would love to see it. I'd love to know what you think. You had a bit of a think. I guess that a word is a representation of an idea, a way of communicating an idea, perhaps. So every word written here is an idea, but together they form a bigger idea. A word then is a way of communicating that, maybe. I like that answer. I like that answer. Blue, you have an answer too? Ooh, I'm so excited. What's your answer? I want to know. I'm going to drink my coffee. A word is a collection of symbols or letters that have some meaning. I like it. I like it. Arkin! You're early for class. You're here. Yay! Do you have an idea? Do you have a thought about what a word is? Did you think about it?
Hello?
Oh yeah, I was gonna mute the people in the game. There we go. Confirm. The perfect student, right? Is the word a verbal command? I mean, that is a good guess. These are all really, really good thoughts. Really good thoughts. I don't know if anyone else is here and wants to put in their thoughts before I say more about it. In teaching, they call this lead time or something like that. You have to give people time to answer. I'm very impatient. I'm no good at that. So I'm gonna drink my coffee and just see if anybody else has a thought and wants to chime in. If not, then I will keep talking. Alright, the coffee's very hot, so it was a little drink. So, the answer to what a word is. It was a trick question, actually. Sorry. Linguists disagree on how to define a word and cannot come to agreement, and kind of this is the trick question that everyone gets met with in their Linguistics 101 class, and then the teacher goes, tee-hee, we don't even know what a word is. You have a busy day at work? Have a good day, Arkin. Don't work too hard. A good rule of thumb for what a word is actually has to do with stress and having a major stress, a primary stress within it, perhaps with a secondary stress. So you have things like, I could say, I see a black bird outside, or I could say, I see a black bird outside. And you can tell from the way I'm saying that one of them I'm saying a bird that is black, and the other I'm saying a blackbird, one word, because the stress is different. So that's kind of it's a good rule of thumb. If you've got a primary stress, that's a word somewhere. But linguists, when we're taking down speech, you don't take down generally. Sometimes you do, certain things, but a lot of times what you're doing is you're recording people talking in natural speech like I am right now, and so it's all a whole bunch of sounds that are they flow together, right? There's spaces between words when we write them in English, supposedly, and there's not spaces in the words when we speak them though, right? I don't talk like this. Typical academics not agreeing on anything. Oh, yeah, the linguists can't agree on anything, and they have to come up with new words for the same concepts that are already covered by perfectly good words. But they say, no, that word has baggage. So instead of this perfectly good 2-syllable word, now you have to go with like 5 syllables, and we'll get there. I might have a little bone to pick with that. I think that linguistics, a lot of linguistics is made to be complicated. This is my thought, my personal rant on it. Is I think that they make it more complicated than it is as a sort of gatekeeping tool. I don't know how else to put it. I think that there's some academic gatekeeping there that doesn't need to exist. It's literally stupid. Everyone can learn this. So, phonetics. I just wanted to get you all with my trick question, but today we're going to talk about phonetics. And phonetics is... Oh, is my thing not working? Oh my gosh, I don't have my streamer bot open. Haha. I can't go through all the wonderful things I set up with you if I don't have my streamer bot open. One sec. Get that and get my speaker bot up. I can't believe I started without even having those two things running. Okay. Now I should be able to do this. There we go. So phonetics, what we're talking about today, is the study of speech sounds. And there's actually 3 different types of phonetics. Acoustic phonetics, which is like the study of the physical properties, the sound waves in the air. Auditory phonetics, which is the study of when those sound waves hit your ear and how they interact with the organs in your ear and how your brain interprets them. And then articulatory phonetics, which is the study of how we make the sounds to start out with. And that's what we're going to talk about today. That's really the easiest thing, to be honest. And I'm talking about sounds and speech, but I want to emphasize that all of this is also true for signed languages. So you have articulatory phonetics for signed languages. So for speech, you're articulating in your mouth and your throat. Actually, all the way from your lungs. And for signed languages, you're articulating with your fingers, it's hand position, it's movement. So you've got the same things. And instead of being acoustic phonetics, it would be visual. How does light interact with the hands? How are you seeing that visual signal? And how is our brain interpreting the visual signal to turn it into language? All of these same things also apply to signed languages. Unfortunately, signed languages are a lot less studied, and most programs really just emphasize spoken languages, and that is what I was taught. So I'm going to be focusing on spoken languages as well, because that's what I know more of. But you can think of it, there is an analogy and an analog for everything in spoken languages with signed languages. They are just as much languages as spoken languages, like ASL, BSL, any other SL that you know of. It's not whatever language translated into signed symbols. You know, American Sign Language is not English, but signed with your hands. It's a completely different language. It has its own grammar and everything. So it's really a shame. I wish I knew more, and I should study more about them. But just keep in mind that I'm going to be talking about speech, but it also applies to sign. Everything I'm saying. So, since we're talking about articulatory phonetics, what are our articulators? And I just have a, let's see, maybe I can actually, if I move my mouse like this, I don't know, I can't see. Oh, my mouse is it's under the picture. You can't see it. I was hoping I could point somehow to the different articulators. Teacher, you have a question? Yes, please, ask away. Anytime you have a question. What do you mean, what's the deal with Egyptian? I don't know anything about Egyptian. Are you talking about, like, hieroglyphics? Ah. So, hieroglyphics is a writing system. And writing as a technology was invented at least 6 times that we know of, separately. I don't know much about hieroglyphics itself. I wasn't taught about hieroglyphics. I know that it would have started. This is generally how any iconographic language writing, logographic writing system, like Chinese or anything, starts as representations literally of the thing, as icons. Like if I have a picture of a tree and it means tree. But then after a while, they tend to evolve to representing the sound of the thing. So, tree, my picture of a tree after a while may not mean actual tree, might just be sound tree. And so now I have a symbol that represents the syllable that sounds like tree. And anytime I want to use that sound, I plop that symbol in there. And that's kind of how writing systems through the logographic writing systems work. I don't know much about hieroglyphics themselves to be able to give you much more on that. Like, what was specifically there. Another damn peasant, you've been trying to learn BSL, and learning there were 300 plus different sign languages worldwide was a bit eye-opening. You figured it was just one universal language. No. Everywhere. Like, everywhere that there's people, there's gonna be deaf people. And they don't necessarily talk to each other, right? And there's even different dialects within signed languages. So depending on where you live, you may hold your hands in a slightly different place or move more or less in a certain way. So, like, all of the variety that you have in spoken languages, you also have in signed languages. There are fewer of them, I believe. Simply because sometimes you'll have very small communities where maybe there's only 1 or 2 deaf people, and that's just not enough to develop a whole signed language. But wherever there's enough people around, you end up getting some sort of signed language. There's a story about Nicaragua. Was it Nicaragua? I think it was Nicaragua. They started a school for deaf children, and they brought them like from all over. It was a really good thing for the kids actually getting education when they were really being cut off from language before. I think I mentioned last time that children being deprived of language is something that we can't study ethically, but sometimes it does happen. And one of the biggest ways that it happens still, even like in modern, every country is modern, but like countries with the best education systems, it still happens when you have hearing adults with deaf children and they don't want to admit that their child is deaf, and they don't learn sign language for the kid. And so essentially that kid grows up not being able to hear, and so they are deprived of language. And you give those kids, usually when they enter the school system, is when they are identified as needing to know signed language, and they flourish once they have access to actual language. But yeah, anyway, there was a school in Nicaragua. Really good thing to get these kids into school, right? But they were being taught, again, the teachers didn't know, they didn't have sign language. They were bringing all these kids in, but the teachers didn't have sign language, so. But the kids were together. And this was good because the kids made a whole new sign language. Like, they made a new language. And it was documented of the kids how this whole new sign language developed. At first, it was the group of kids came in and they had their home signs, which is what you develop, like you're talking to your family at home. It's called home sign. And that doesn't translate everywhere. Someone halfway around the world or across the country or whatever doesn't know the same home signs you do. But they get together and they get these home signs and they start trying to talk to each other, because kids are always going to talk. Kids are always going to talk. You get them together, they're going to find a way to talk to each other. And they kind of develop the first group of kids develop this rudimentary set of, okay, we've agreed upon these signs. And then the next set of kids come in and they enhance it. They give it more syntax. They give it more vocabulary, and each group of kids comes in and it refined more and more until they had a whole language, and it's Nicaraguan Sign Language now. Yeah, it's super cool. I don't want to say, I think it was like the 60s or something when that happened. Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. We're supposed to be talking about phonetics. Oh, let's see. Here, one second. I'm going to have a little more coffee, and then we'll talk about our speech articulators. I don't know why I'm acting like I have to stay on topic. This stream is going to be like 4 hours long. Unless you guys stop me, I'm going to fill it up with phonetics. Alrighty. Got some coffee. Never gonna stop you. This is great. Alright, we're gonna look at the graphic on the right side. This is a sagittal diagram. Basically, it's somebody facing to the left, and imagine that their head is cut in half. It's sliced in half. And their nose is what's poking off to the left. You've got their nostrils there. Everything that's labeled can be used in speech. See, we have the upper lips. There's the teeth right behind them. And then following along the top of the mouth, there's the alveolar ridge. If you feel with your tongue along the roof of your mouth, you'll feel that sort of, you can feel how it goes up like that, right? You can feel the ridge with your tongue. And when, I won't say when anybody else is doing it, but when I say something that has a T or a D in it, my tongue goes right onto that ridge. But I know that people here live in different places from me and will speak differently from me. So it's, when I'm saying this is where my tongue goes, it doesn't mean yours has to or should go there. That's just my accent. And so up above is the hard palate. As an American English speaker, I don't use the hard palate very much. Mostly when I'm doing like ch or sh. See, the velum, that's going to be where your tongue hits when you're doing, which is represented with ng in English. Or K or a G, K, G, your tongue hits the velum back here. Your tongue can also hit the uvula. See if I can do it. Something like that. I try to do it. I'm not very good at anything further back than the velum due to my American English accent. You can also have pharyngeal sounds. Those are more common in like Arabic. I think Arabic has a lot of pharyngeal sounds, which again, your tongue is going to be very low and back. And then, I think I did this backwards, and I wanted to start with the larynx, because the larynx is super cool. But this whole thing, I've actually left some things out. Specifically, I want to look at the nasal cavity. Look back up towards the top. You see that big green bit? It's a nasal cavity. And have you ever like trumpeted through a tube? Like that? Made your voice sound funny? Essentially, is there any language that hits the highest number of these zones? Probably. There are some languages with some pretty spread things, but no language has them all, I don't think. There's no language that uses all of the possible sounds that we know the humans can make. That's a good question. I'm sure somewhere someone has written down which language has recorded, which recorded language has the most number of sounds. Hey, Splisser! A raccoon stole your notebook? Oh no, those nasty raccoons. Oh, we're gonna get, when we talk about phonology, that's when we're really gonna get into accents, Blue. We'll talk about, Yeah, when we get into the phonology. Right now, we're talking about the actual sounds that people make, but phonology is the sounds that people think they're making, which are not the same thing. And that's kind of how we get accents. Right now, we're focusing just on the actual sounds. And so if you think about it, like your whole, um, from your lungs all the way out through your mouth, it's all just a fancy tube. You love that difference. Yeah, it's an important difference. Um, so we have a fancy tube, and basically we talk just by manipulating the very end of this fancy tube that we're blowing air out of. So it's really, really cool. And I'm actually gonna have to go in and mute my music in the game, I think. One sec here. Let's turn all the volume down. So if I remember right, I think I have a video that I wanted to play. There we go. And I hope the volume is okay on it. I don't think the audio will save on the VOD, so I'll put the link to the video in the chat. And this, essentially what this is this thing here. I think you can see my mouse now, right? Can you? Maybe not. Um, this guy here, he's buzzing. The bass is buzzing, and then this guy's holding a model. I know it's really, really low quality. It's hard to see, but he's holding a model of the interior, this tube, essentially. And it's going to make a vowel sound. It's going to change from a buzzing noise to sounding like a man. And it's just because of the shape of the tube. Oh, it was going. I thought it wasn't going. Sorry. So now they've just changed the shape of the tube. And this one's at a higher frequency um, to simulate a female's vocal cords. Freaky, right? It sounds like a voice because that's all your vocal cords are doing essentially is vibrating at one frequency or another. The females is so uncanny. Yeah. And so it's all fancy tubing, right? What did I have? Ah, okay. I have another video for you. Um, we're gonna look at the vocal cords now. Yes, yes, vocal cords now. Um, it I just want to warn you because it looks fleshy, but it's not, anything unsafe for work. Just beware. If someone comes by, be like, no, no, the vocal cords. That's the way someone described it. One of my professors described it in class. He's like, "Beware, it looks fleshy." So, it's just a bit odd looking, but this is someone who's stuck a camera down the throat, and we're gonna look at the vocal cords as they're going. Voice doctor, see, voice doctor. You see how they look like they're going really fast, and then they look like they slow down, and it kind of goes slow and smooth? They're not actually slowing down. What's happening is that they are moving faster than the frame rate of the camera. It's like when you're watching helicopter blades on a film and it looks like they start going slowly backwards. That's the effect that you're seeing here, is that they are vibrating so quickly that it looks like they slow down. All right, I'll take it off. I just think it's so cool the way they go so fast that it looks like they're going slow. But that's you do that every day, every time you're using your vocal cords. I'm doing it right now. So let's see. Those were vocal folds. Yes, those were vocal folds. Vocal folds, vocal cords. Folds is really more correct. Yeah, they're super cool. Super cool, right? So, what was next? I had one more video for you. Is there anyone in here right now who speaks German? Just out of curiosity, because this video's in German. And what this is, you can probably tell, it's you're basically looking at the cut in half view. You know one German line? I don't know what that is. I don't know any German really. I just know this was done in Germany. Lots of good linguistics work is done at Max Planck, which is where this was filmed. This was done on an MRI, and it very quick MRI. I'm gonna play about half of it, and then after we talk about vowels and things, after we talk about like the actual articulations that we do, I'm gonna play a little more, and it'll be even more interesting then. Um, what you should be looking at is basically look at the lips. This big white thing here, this is the tongue. Um, this here, you can't see it right now because it's all closed up, but it's the velum. And you'll see it will move back and forth, and sometimes it will close off the tube here to the nasal cavity, and sometimes it will be open. And when it's open and you're doing a consonant, that's a nasal consonant, like N or M. And we'll talk more about those in a minute. But you'll watch that go back and forth. That's something that's being controlled by the muscles and is articulation. Tongues are super weird. Super weird. All right, so let's watch just a little bit. Oh, and it's the sound is bad. You can hear him talking, but he's in an MRI machine, which is really uh, loud. So they've tried to edit it out, but it's really buzzy. Just be aware of that. When he swallows. It looks funny. Oh, there's the velum right here. A little more, maybe? All right, that's probably good, actually. Takes a little swallow. Later on, very shortly, he's going to start going through, yeah, he's going to start going through his vowels. And then you'll be able to really see the tongue position that I'm going to talk about and understand it a little better. But is all those things that are moving there, those are all articulators and things that are your muscles have learned how to do over time as you've learned your language. And different languages do focus in different parts, which can make it difficult to do new sounds in a new language. The velum and uvula were putting in work, right? That velum's like popping up and down. As you keep it closed most of the time. Well, like for most consonants, it's going to be closed. For your vowels, it can be closed or open, depends. And I don't know German, so I don't know all of that, what goes into his pronunciation. Uh, I'm a little glad that there's no videos of me like this. I don't know why. It feels very personal in a way. To me, maybe. But I think it's super cool, and I'm glad we get to watch this guy talk. So the next thing is how do we write and how do we talk about these different sounds, these different articulations? And what we use as linguists is something generally called, well, the International Phonetic Alphabet, or the IPA, is the most popular and the most well known of them, but what we use are phonetic alphabets. There are others. There's the American Phonetic Alphabet that's used a lot for Native American languages. If you're studying Native American languages, you might be using the American Phonetic Alphabet more. And that one's not better than the other. It's more just convention. In this sphere, we tend to use this one. In this sphere, we tend to use this one. The IPA is a good overarching one, and most people know it. You prefer loggers yourself. Well, make one, call it logger. What was it? I think I tried to I was making a game or working on a concept of something, and it was gonna have a fake, like, IPA phonetic alphabet, its own one, and I think I called it ale, A-L-E. Like, articulatory, linguistic, something or something. I don't know. I probably came up with something. It, it will often show up in things like dictionaries to tell you how to pronounce stuff, yeah. So first, let's look at consonants. Specifically, you knew the linguists would love a good pun. We do. We do. Specifically, pulmonic consonants. So over in the little picture on the right, down below the larynx, you see it says trachea, two lungs. And two lungs is important because most language, spoken language, is spoken by air that comes from the lungs. That is how it's powered. You're breathing out from your lungs. There are some sounds in some languages that do not use air from the lungs, but there are no sounds in any language that are purely ingressive. Like, we don't talk like this. We don't breathe in while we're trying to talk. There's no language where we do that. We do have some where we'll suck in air. Like some languages have clicks. Uh, those are usually in Africa. A lot of African languages have clicks. Those count as consonants, but they're not pulmonic because the airflow is going into your mouth. And we also there's a couple other non-pulmonic consonants. We'll talk about them in a minute. For now, the pulmonic consonants, and pulmonic just means from the lungs. Pulmonary, lung, all lung related. The little devil is impressive. Ingressive. That was hard, even doing it for just a minute, just a second. Oh, I'm a possum again. Yay, I'm a possum. So, we were just talking about the articulators, and you can see here that all of the consonants are arranged on a grid. And along the top, we have what we call the place of articulation. So bilabial consonants are going to be pronounced by bringing your lips together. Labial means lips. Bilabial, two lips. Bilabial. So P and B, B. We linguists don't really say letter names so much. We talk about the sounds, but we might say the sound represented by the letter P. Um, P, B, M, those are all sounds that you make by bringing both of your lips together. At least P, B, M. Those sounds are always made. P, B, and M, they might represent different sounds in different languages. I don't know. Oh, that's what labia means. Yes, it means lips. um, you're learning so much. Yes, yes. Linguists do end up with a very interesting vocabulary. Just wait till we get to syntax and we're talking about PPs and TPs. So, labial dental, that is that is when you have lips and teeth. So, V, v in my dialect, a V is pronounced v. My top teeth go on my bottom lip, and we'll talk about the difference in how these are pronounced in a minute, but just place right now. Is there any equivalent table for sign language? You know, probably. So the transcription of signed languages, last time I looked, it appears that there's a few, and none of them are as widely accepted or as easily accessible for typing as this. Um, yeah, I don't know, and I'm not sure I'm sure that there is someone somewhere has said these are the places and the manners of doing these sorts of things in signed languages. But here we have, hmm. You're asking good questions that I don't know the answer to, Blue Keeper. I'm just going to write down that I need to find out more about this because I want to know more about this. And this will give me fodder for future linguistics redeems. See what you're doing here? If you guys never want to end it, I'll end up talking about this eventually because I want to know what is signed language phonetics exactly. I'll look that up. I'll look that up. Thank you for the question. I was a labial dental. All right, then we have dental. After bilabial and labiodental, when we talk about place of articulation, we're talking about where the tongue is going. You just understood this table. Probably isn't enough time. It would be cool to hear me explain every sound. Dude, we have 4 hours. I can try. I cannot guarantee that I can say every sound. But I also encourage you guys to try. Um, that's part of learning linguistics is actually trying to do the sounds and make the articulations in your mouth. Because you don't really understand it until you do it, right? So dental, alveolar, and postalveolar, you can see are mostly all together, and that's because in a lot of languages, you can kind of hit your tongue anywhere. So dental would be putting it right against the back of the teeth. And this is where, like, when I'm speaking Spanish, I put my D's right there. But when I'm speaking English, my D's I actually put a little further back on the alveolar ridge. But it doesn't matter. I could swap how I do them, and people would understand me the same. Like they're kind of the same. I would like for them to have 3 columns all the way down like they do for the fricatives, because I think all those different places should be. And if we go back actually to here, You can see further down towards the bottom where it says diacritics. Those are marks that you use to further refine. So if you want to say it's a T, but it's dental, it's not alveolar, it's definitely dental, you would add a little dental diacritic to it, just to be more refined on that. Like these nuts versus these nuts. Yes, very close. There's one other difference in those two that we'll talk about just a second. Ah, yes, IPA chart is a great one. Thank you, Another Damn Peasant. I really should have put a link to it, to the IPA chart. It's a great resource. And I might be sending you a link to a place where you can type IPA too in a minute. Depending. Oh, I can turn the music back on. Right. Confirm. All right. I thought something was missing. It's because I didn't have any music in my ears. All right, we got the music. We're talking about dental, alveolar, and post-alveolar. So dental's when your tongue is right up on the alveolar, or right up against the back of your teeth. Like, let's see. Pedo? No. I turned that into a TH. Donde? There we go. Try to think of a... And that's, phonotactics. We'll get into that later, of why the D turned into a TH in that first one. But anyway. Donde? My tongue is right behind my teeth. But if I say it like with an American accent, I would say donde, and my tongue is on my alveolar ridge. I don't know if you can hear the difference. Yes, Blue Keep, exactly. Donde está la biblioteca? That is exactly when you would turn that into a... Of course, I'm reading it, and so I went theca instead of deca, but... We'll talk about that in a second. Post-alveolar is, again, right behind the ridge, so... I'm trying to point with my mouse, but I know you guys can't see it. But where it's flat and low right behind the teeth, that's your ridge, and then just behind that is post-alveolar. Retroflex. Thank you, community TV show, right? Retroflex is, your tongue is around the alveolar ridge area, but it's actually not touching it so much as it's curled back. The tip of your tongue is curled back when it's retroflex. It's a little bit different. Like, you can still hit the alveolar ridge, but the tip is curled back. You might get this in like a T, and I'm kind of guessing here, but like do, like that. That's a D. Do, a retroflex D. I think you can hear those sounds in India. I think sometimes those are pronounced retroflex. American, of course, I do retroflex sounds all the time because I am speaking English with an American accent, and so I have my R's. That's retroflex. It's my very American accent there. I think Scottish might also have some of the retroflex R sound too. The Scottish accent, I should say. Palatal. So we're going to move our tongue a little further back. We're getting rid of that retroflex curl. Move the tongue a little further back. Palatal is up against that hard palate, really. Sh is a palatal, or perhaps, sh and ch are palatal. If you speak Spanish, the sound represented by the nye, that's a palatal sound. Nya. It's not ny. If you grew up in the States, you very likely were taught that the nye sounds like nya, but it doesn't. What they're trying to say is it's a nasal sound, and it's palatal. Y is palatal, n is nasal. You squish them together, you might get it. Yeah. Oh yeah, if you're an actor and you're learning different accents, these are what you're being taught, and you're also being taught phonology, which is what I'm going to talk about after this, which again is how you think about the sounds, what sounds you think you're making, which aren't always the same, right? But you want to know what sounds. The phonology has to do with the regular sound change rules, like the D to the TH sound, da da the, in Spanish. Mañana. Lasagna. So then velar sounds, I think I said this already, that's like going to be K, G, anything that your tongue's hitting that velum in the back. NG, the sound represented by NG in English, that's one sound. And then uvular is hitting the uvula. Pharyngeal is hitting that pharyngeal wall. And don't ask me to make those sounds, I can't. And then glottal. Glottal sounds are when you close your glottis, aka your vocal folds. The glottis is technically, it's the hole in between the vocal folds. So when the vocal folds come together, they close the glottis and they stop the air. And I'm talking specifically about a glottal stop here. And they stop the air and then they open and release it again. And that's a sound that comes from the glottis. There's also glottal fricatives. And we'll talk about the difference between a stop and a fricative in just a sec. So that glottal stop, though, we have it in English, but it's not phonemic. It doesn't mean anything. I use it a lot as an American English speaker. Almost every word I say that begins with a vowel, I actually begin it with a glottal stop. Even though technically, in linguistics, a glottal stop is a consonant. So I'm just like throwing an extra consonant at the beginning of all these words. I just did it there in front of all. If you want to know how it sounds, and you're like me, like I had to learn, I didn't realize that that was a consonant that I was doing. So one thing we probably all do if we speak English is we probably all go, uh-oh, with that little pause in the middle. Uh-oh. The pause in the middle is a glottal stop. So if you practice your uh-oh, you'll be able to eventually feel it. And you can feel your glottis closing and your vocal folds coming together, and you can feel it when they pull apart. And you can then practice it without doing the other sounds in between, and you'll be able to hear it makes a little clicky noise. So it actually has a sound of its own, just like all the other stops. E, o, u. There are many languages where glottal stop is treated as a regular consonant. It's not just this weird thing we kind of throw in. We use glottal stops in other places in English as well. At least in my dialect and my accent. But let's talk about now the difference between the glottal stop and the fricatives and all of that. Because that was, we just went across the top. I think French fries to avoid this. So we went across the top, we talked about all the places of articulation. And hopefully you were like moving your lips and moving your tongue and kind of trying to feel it. And kind of, even if you don't know how to make a uvular sound, maybe you tried to do a uvular stop. What did autocorrect do to you? But in each place of articulation, we can also do different manners or types of articulation. So P and B are, in fact, let's go to T and D. T and D and S, the S sound, they all are articulated in the same place, at least for me. My tongue's in the same place when I make all those sounds. T, D, S, Z. My tongue is in the same place for all of those. Think French fries to avoid glottal stops. Oh, you think French tries to avoid glottal stops? It may. I don't know any French. Except for like, oui, non. And maybe I could do an exaggerated stereotyped laugh. Ha ha ha. But I don't know French at all. Oh, wait. I've played Expedition 33. So I do know putain and mère and maman. I just know random words. It's not a language. So let's see. We're going to talk about the manners of articulation, the different ways we make noises. The different ways? Yes. So, the first one is a plosive, which is also called a stop. So if you want to make a P or a B sound, go ahead and do it now, but don't bring your lips apart. Try to make a B sound without releasing your lips. Put your lips together and try. You can't do it, right? You have to release, you have to let your lips go, buh. That's when the sound comes out. Buh. And what's happening before that is you're increasing the pressure, the air pressure behind your lips. You have created a stoppage of the air. And when you release that stoppage, it plosives out, shall we say. So they're called both stops and plosives. Both words, both terms are equally acceptable. You'll hear both. So don't get confused if someone comes along and says stop or plosive. They mean the same thing. But what they do is they stop the airflow, completely block the airflow, and then the sound occurs when you release the airflow. In all cases, that is how a stop works. So a bilabial stop stops the airflow at the lips. A dental stop would stop the airflow at the teeth. An alveolar stop stops it at the alveolar ridge. Palatal stop stops it at the palate, and so on. Ventriloquists manage to work around this by not using bilabial or labial sounds of any kind, and they kind of just they use other sounds instead. So you might use a T instead of a P, and you rely a lot on context and on people expecting a P to be there. And so they hear what they expect. That happens a lot. That's one of the big things in ventriloquism. Based on the one ventriloquism book I got from the library when I was about 10 years old. I remember specifically checking out a book on ventriloquism because I thought it was fun. And I remember learning that. I thought it would be fun, I should say. I never did get any good at ventriloquism. But I loved the library. I went there a lot when I was a kid. Oh, I'm sure that's a shocker. Let's see. Nasals. You remember watching that video and you saw the velum popping back and forth, closing up the cavity, the passage to the nasal cavity and opening it back up again? I read about ventriloquism as a child. I don't know if I read about linguistics. I should have. Maybe my life would have been different. The velum is basically responsible for whether or not you have an open passage of air through your nose. So when you go to make that B sound with your lips, you get the buildup of air, right? And you only get that because everything is completely closed off. Your velum is raised, and it is closed off the passage up to the nasal cavity. So in the picture on the right, it's not closed off, but you can imagine it being pushed back or raised a bit, and where the green and the blue meet each other, that's now a wall, and the air can't get by there. That's what closes it off, and you might buh, and you get that buildup of air. On the other hand, you have sounds like M. You can close your lips, and you can make an M, and you can just keep making that sound. But your lips are doing the same thing. The difference is that your velum is lowered, and now you have that open passage of air through your nasal cavity and out through your nose. So you're not getting the buildup of pressure, and you don't need the release to make the sound for the M. And otherwise, a B and an M are the same thing. Nasal sounds. No, I'll get to that in a minute. Trills. So a trill is a really, really fast flap. If you know Spanish, I think Scottish English also has trilled R's. You have r. If I cover my nose, I can't say mm. Yes, exactly. It becomes a B again. Exactly, Blue Keeper. Good example. So the trill is when your tongue is slapping really fast, like rrr. Perro in Spanish, if I want to say dog. A tap or a flap. We get, once again, to linguists disagreeing on terms and what terms should be used and which one's more correct and whatever. Tap and flap. Just treat them as the same thing. They're the same for you. They're the same for me. I treat them as the same. That is when your tongue flaps up really quickly. It's not long enough to cause a stoppage of air or a buildup of air. It flaps really quickly. And this would be your R in Spanish. It does that. Pero. But I also do it in English. In my American English accent, you may have heard people say that Americans turn T's to D's. We don't really. We don't turn T's to D's. We turn T's into Spanish R's. We turn them into flaps. We don't turn them into alveolar stops. So I say butter, wetter. You know, I have a T in between vowels. I flap it. And it becomes voiced. And it's the exact same as an R in Spanish. Pero. It's the same. A fricative. Fricatives have got to be the funnest ones, and you know it because there is a fricative for every place of articulation. I think that makes fricatives special. Maybe that's just me, but I think so. A fricative is when the air comes out and like it's all frictiony, really. It's called turbulent flow. So have you heard of laminar flow? I think most people have heard of laminar flow because you get videos online of like, oh, the way the water's coming out of this faucet looks really cool, and it like almost looks like it's not moving, and then they'll hit it and you can tell, oh yeah, it is actually water flowing. It's just flowing in this really cool way. That's the opposite. Turbulent flow is, well, you have turbulence everywhere. Things are going all over every which way. There's no pattern to it. And fricatives are when we cause that turbulent flow in the air that's coming out of our mouths. So, S sound, that's a fricative. I'm making the air kind of turbulent. Yep, laminar flow is popular on some subreddits. Yes, something you see. Turbulent flow, it's popular in languages. Languages with fricatives, which might be all of them. I'm not sure. There are lots of fricatives. I love fricatives. So S, Z, sh, zh, these are all fricatives. Th, th. Let's see, F and V, f, v. And even RH sound, that is a glottal fricative. So you're making that sound down in your glottis, all the way down in your throat. Lateral fricatives. So laterals... Alright, so like the Scottish loch, I said that wrong probably, in Scottish Gaelic, there's a lot of these. Yes. Yeah, I think you've got it. I think you've got it. So, I'm going to talk about approximates. I'm going to skip the lateral fricatives and talk about approximates real quick. Approximates are the sounds that are like vowel-like. In some languages, they are treated like vowels, and in some languages, they're treated like consonants. Like, yeah. Very wrong. The ch is much softer. Yeah, I don't know anything about how to pronounce it, sorry. Loch. See, in American English, I would just say loch, but that's probably wrong too. I mean, it's right in American English, but wrong for Scottish English. So the approximates are, yeah, they're vowel-like, like cloak with a C. Loch. We're just guessing. When we could probably look it up. Yeah, without a C makes sense, yeah. Well, I'm not sure. So I mentioned my American R earlier. That is an approximate. And I actually use it a lot as a vowel. Very vowel-like. It can be the nucleus of a syllable in my particular accent. It's more fun to guess. You're not wrong. Guessing is fun. And then laterals are kind of like a twist on another sound. So if you make an L, la 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 la, just your la la L, your beginning of the syllable L in my accent in anyway, mimic me and go la la la. If you make that sound, your tongue is going to be in the same place. My tongue is when I go na 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 or da da da. The difference is the shape of my tongue. My tongue sides kind of pull in a little more. My tongue becomes more like a tube or a log. Like, and air is allowed to flow along the sides of my tongue. La la la. Ta ta ta. And it changes the shape of that tube again. Changes the way the air's coming out and changes the sound. So your lateral sounds, your lateral approximates, your lateral fricatives, those are the same as your non-lateral ones, but essentially with the sides of your tongue kind of pulled in. And it's something you do automatically if you have a lateral sound in your language. You don't even think about it, but it's the shape of the tongue. Like, you ever stick your tongue out, and sometimes you can make it fat and narrow, and sometimes you can make it wide and flat, right? It's the fat, narrow tongue. And normally your tongue's more wide and flat when you're speaking. Okay, so now, talking about the non-pulmonic consonants. Thanks for the lurk, Blue Keeper. The non-pulmonic consonants, as I mentioned earlier, these are consonants where the airflow, and a consonant, by the way, I realized I did not define a consonant and what it is. I just kind of assumed we all know. But we don't. We don't all know because I didn't tell you. A consonant is a sound you make that somehow disrupts the airflow. So you can see, like with a T or a D, we're disrupting the airflow with that stop, by stopping the air. With an S or a Z, we're disrupting the airflow by making it all frictiony and fricative-y and turbulent. So that's why when you get to things like the approximants, there can be a little iffy. Are we really disrupting airflow when I go is the airflow disrupted, or is it just being shaped different? Like, is that much different from going right? So even the line between a consonant and a vowel is a little bit slippery. And it does come down to essentially language-specific definitions of how the sounds are treated in the language, and sometimes even how they're treated changes depending on the environment that the sounds are in. Well, we'll get to that. Just wanted to make sure we all knew what a consonant was, because I'm sitting here talking like we know. We didn't necessarily. So the definition of a vowel is when the airflow is not disrupted like that, and it's allowed to just go out through your special shaped tube, essentially. And it's not stopped along the way. It's not impeded. What's the word? Obstructed. Obstructed is the word that we use in linguistics. And there's like, oh man, I should have got it maybe. There's a chart that I saw once, and it had like 6 things of categories, and it starts with consonant at one end, well, the consonantal types, and at one end you had like the full stop, and then at the other end it was completely open vowel, and it was just this whole range of different types of sounds you can get in like the gradient of, is it a vowel, is it a consonant, and sort of in the middle it gets real iffy. Your special shaped tube, indeed. You're gonna start referring to your mouth as your special shaped tube. That's what it is, right? Your special shaped tube. So sometimes we have the airflow either doesn't come from the lungs or rather, well, it doesn't come from the lungs. Sometimes it's still going outward, but sometimes it's coming in, like with the clicks I talked about. If you grew up around horses in the US, you might be familiar with that's a click. If you grew up in Africa and speak a language that has clicks in it, you'll be familiar with lots of different clicks. And there are consonants, they have the place, like a bilabial click is obviously going to be one that you make with both of your lips. Probably, I'm going to guess here. That's my guess. That's a bilabial click. And you could use it like any other consonant in a word. Voiced implosives. Oh, shoot. I just realized I forgot something. Voiced implosives, though, are air going in again, but your voice is going. And what does voiced mean, you mean? You ask, because I didn't tell you, and I'm a possum again. Your guys' favorite thing is being taught by a possum, huh? Being taught by a possum through a special possum-shaped tube. Alright, so voicing. Should go back. Here, you can see that in most... Is that for most of them? For a lot of the sounds, if not for most, you actually have two side by side. Like I was talking about T and D and P and B, kind of as if they were the same things. But I wasn't telling you what was different about them. And the difference there is voicing. It's whether or not you actually have your vocal cords engaged. So for some sounds, your vocal cords, your vocal folds are not engaged. They're just relaxed and your glottis is nice and wide and open. And those are called voiceless sounds. So that's going to be P, T, K, S. So if you take your hand and put it on your throat, and I don't care if there's people around you, I don't care if you look weird. Oh, everybody listening to me right now, take your hand, put it on your throat, and I want you to make an S sound like a snake, S, and then I want you, without taking a breath, to change it to a buzzing sound. Zzz, zzz. You shouldn't need to move your tongue at all. The only thing changing should be whether or not your vocal folds are engaged. And your hand on your throat, you should be able to feel, literally feel the buzzing when your vocal folds engage. And you should be able to feel it stop when you're doing the S and start up again when you do the Z. S and Z in my dialect. So that's why you've got the pairs right there. Is the only difference is whether or not your vocal folds are going when you make the sound. I realize I forgot to say that too. This is how you know it's not a real curriculum. So the voiced implosives are going to be perhaps a little similar to clicks in that you're pulling air in the same way, but you're going to have your vocal folds going. They're going to be buzzing. They're going to be making that buzz noise like in that video we watched earlier with the special shaped tubes going oh and ah. So I don't know if I can do these. There was my try at a few. Ejectives, the air is flowing out, but they are non-pulmonic, meaning the air does not come from your lungs. Ejectives, the air comes from your glottis in a weird way. So what you do is you close your glottis, vocal folds together, you've got that stop, and then you can actually raise your entire larynx, which is the box that holds the whole vocal box. Like, your glottis is in between your vocal folds and all of that's in your larynx. You raise your whole larynx and it pushes the air out. And that's how you get ejective sounds, like p and t and k. They have to be voiceless though, because of how you're using your larynx to push the air. And those we don't have in English, and I'm not sure if I did them very well when I tried there. And down below you see there's some other symbols We have the voiceless labial velar fricative. This is sometimes I use it when I say things like what? What? Ink? Or the w in W, that's also down there. And that's because it kind of... The reason why these other symbols are not in the main chart is because you actually articulate them in several... in more than one place. So if I say W, the sound for W in my dialect is w. And I actually do that both with my lips going together, going w w w, and also my tongue is doing something towards the back of my mouth, towards the velum, and kind of sliding. W. White House. What? Yeah. I don't normally say it like that. I usually just say White House and what, but sometimes I do. Especially when I'm reading in the game. If I'm really trying to like enunciate and make some sound differences, I'll throw in some extra enunciations that I wouldn't necessarily do in my casual speech, if I think it helps. There is one category of sounds here that I don't see mentioned at all. Yeah, I see them mentioned, but they're not listed. And these are affricates. You can see down there it says affricates and double articulations can be represented by two symbols joined by a tie bar if necessary. The tie bar, I think, is going to be down on your diacritics. You'll probably find the tie bar. Yeah, lower left it looks like. And it basically, it's an arc. An arch. It can go under or over depending. And it says these are pronounced as one single syllable. These, or sound. These two sounds together. And what we'll see there is, let me actually show you a couple that are common. So common that sometimes these actually just have their own symbol. There are symbols that exist that just like join these together. But here's one I just put into chat. That is t and sh. So the stop t and the fricative sh, or the stop t, I should say, together make the sound ch, ch, which in English we represent with ch, or in my English we represent as ch. American English. Other ones would be j, church, exactly. Church has that twice. The J sound in English, in my dialect of English, j, like judge, that's the exact same as ch, except that they're voiced. Instead of being two voiceless sounds, it's two voiced sounds. So it's D, and where to go? There. Put that into the chat. J. So these are affricates, and an affricate is when you have a stop followed by a fricative. Japanese has ts, ts. That is an affricate in Japanese, I know. Let's see. What other languages do I know of that have affricates? That might be different from English. Spanish just has the ch that I can think of. But there, you get lots of combinations. But stop, fricative, said really, really closely together. Tsuyu, tsubasa, tsunami. Yeah, it's a fricative. Or sorry, an affricate. So affricates are fun. Affricates are a lot of fun. You get lots of combinations with them. But let's talk now about vowels. So consonants, and then if you want, I can go through and try to say them all. I will fail horribly at many of the sounds, but I can give it a try. Consonants, as you saw, tend to have, like, you can put them into little boxes. Literally, we put them into little boxes. We stuck them on a grid and boxed them up. And one thing, I keep forgetting stuff, but one thing I forgot to mention about this grid. So every white space, whether or not it has a symbol in it, is a possible sound. But if it's grayed out, that means that it's a sound that we don't believe humans are capable of making. So like a voiced glottal stop, how are you going to do that? You literally are using your glottis to do the voicing. So you can't stop and voice at the same time with your glottis. That's one example. But all the gray ones are essentially sounds we believe to be impossible. And other than that, though, like, we can put them into boxes in the consonants. They go into boxes. We're able to categorize them very easily that way. Is that the ch you often get in German? I am... So, the j, that's j. That's like an English j. Like in judge. I just said it twice in judge. So, German might have another affricate. I'm not sure. I don't know German. Hippie bloke, hey! Got a lurk? Well, thank you for the lurk. Ah, my garlic emote didn't show on the message. That's sad. And I made all those little messages personally. Alright. So, anyway. I don't know is the answer to your question, another damn peasant. I don't know the sounds of German, unfortunately, so I can't answer your question. It is the same thing. Oh, there you go. Yay. Now we both have learned something. So, consonants. Well, we can and literally do put them into little boxes. Vowels we can't do the same thing with. Vowels are determined by the position of your tongue and essentially how high your jaw is. So, if you make the sound E and put your hand just underneath your chin, you're not trying to feel anything necessarily, just E and feel where your hand is. And then if you slowly lower your jaw, in fact, you don't have to put your hand there. Yeah, you'll notice that the sound you make changes just as you open your jaw. If you move nothing else, yeah, it changes. And it goes through like a range of sounds. And also, hello, Luffy. Welcome, welcome. Did you do your homework? We're talking about vowels. We just got done talking about consonants, but we're going to go back and I'm going to try to say them in a minute. You were playing? Okay. I suppose that's fine then. So I'm making everybody say awkward things with no care for whether or not there's other people around them. That's about brain damage. Well, now we're brain curing. So we're starting with E and just open your jaw, let it go down lower and lower. Yeah, and just don't change anything else and see how your vowel sound changes. And while you guys are making funny noises, I'm going to drink a little coffee. So, what we call the vowel space is much more nebulous, much more... Certainly can't put it into boxes. We'll say that. It's a bit flowy. It's a bit... Yeah. Every person's vowel space is a little bit different, actually. But what's important... So, if every person's vowel space is a little bit different, because every person has their own special tube, so every person's vowels are inevitably going to sound a little bit different. ASMR. how can we understand anything that somebody else says if every single person's vowels are different from every single other person's vowels? And the answer to that, unless you guys have an answer, any guesses? Any guesses? I want to know how you think we can understand each other's vowels, because everybody's vowels literally are different, since we all have our own special shaped tubes that make our vowels sound different. You think it's Mambo? By seeing the way. By seeing the way their lips move. So then how are you understanding me now? Blue? Just as a question. Can we talk by moving balls? Oh, wait. Oh, wait, yeah. The context of the vowel? I think we're getting closer here. We're getting closer. Any other guesses? Consonants? Consonants help. But we do have things in that we will learn more about in linguistics called minimal pairs. And these are words that are the same except for one thing, like beat and bet. How do you know if I'm saying beat or bet? The consonant environment is the same, right? Me is different from thee. But is me different from my? Emphasis. So what we believe is going on is the relative relationship in space. How my E relates to my relates to my relates to my aw should be the same. Those should be the same relative distance apart as somebody else with my accent. Their E, and ah will all be different from mine, but their relative distance from each other, phonetically speaking, like in formants, and I do have a thing set up to show you those in a minute, those are going to be about the same. So it's the acoustic properties of the sound and how they compare to each other will have the same relative relationship of our vowels. So anyone with the same accent, they're going to have that same sort of relative relationship, more or less. And that's how we can understand each other. Because the context, as another damn peasant said, we're taking in more than just the context of the consonants around it. We're taking in all the other vowels the person is saying too. But I still think it's so super cool that we can even understand each other at all. So, looking at the vowels here, we haven't put them into boxes, but they are kind of labeled. The front, and this is not close, or close. I know it says open, so you think it should be closed at the top, because it's open at the bottom, but it's actually close. Like the opposite of far. And the idea there is whether or not your lips or your jaw is close or open. But if you say close, I don't think anyone will really correct you. Whoever came up with that was dumb and shouldn't have named it that way. This is my linguistic opinion. So, a close front vowel is going to be where your jaw is almost closed and your tongue is really, really close to the top of your mouth, to the roof of your mouth. And if it's front, that's going to be close to your alveolar ridge towards the front. And if you make the sound E, you're going to do it automatically. Without having to think about it, that's going to be the position you're in. Because the sound E is a closed front vowel. And you see right next to it, we have a Y. Why do we have a Y? This might be one thing. I think I know this about French. I think in French, Y is pronounced the same as it is in IPA. And the difference between the E and E is what your lips are doing. Everything else stays exactly the same. So when you go E, your lips are kind of, let me say, they're like stretched out sideways, flat. If you go E, your lips should be pursed and rounded. Similar to if you went ooh. Go ooh, and your lips will round. You have rounded lips. Ooh. And you see, if we go to the back, that's your ooh sound. That's a back vowel. Your tongue, if you start E and go ooh, you'll feel your tongue move from the front of your mouth to the back of your mouth. Ooh. If you unround your lips while making that noise, you're going to make what looks here like the upside down M sound. Ooh. Ooh. That's me going from rounded to unrounded. Ooh. Changing nothing else but the rounding in my lips. And central sounds would be the ones where your tongue is in between the front and the back. So E, E, which I don't know if anyone's noticed. Probably not, because my microphone really compresses my voice. So it's got noise canceling on it, and you guys are thankful for that. I have been trying in some of my reading to pronounce the Y's that pop up. It's the front rounded E. Like I've been saying Welkin stones. I don't know if anybody noticed. I've been doing that for me. Also... E versus E. E and A, those are essentially getting lower, but they're still unrounded. So you see the symbol that's represented by the letter E? That's E, like, that's the Spanish E. The sound made with the Spanish E. If you know Spanish, I don't know. I don't know if anyone knows Spanish. I do, so I go to it a lot. Pedro, things like that. E. My accent of English does not use that sound very much. I only really use it in what is called a diphthong, and we'll get to that in a minute, but that's like the affricate of vowels. It's when you have two vowels pushed close together and they're one syllable and not two. Yes, e is also in Japanese. It's a very common vowel sound. And I have it in my dialect, but only in diphthongs. Otherwise, I don't use it in my dialect of English. I'm more likely to go with e from, like, bed. That's my e. And that is the one just a little further down that looks like the backward 3. And I think of my bed vowel. That's e. And then right below that, the one that looks like the A and the E smushed together, that's ah, like my cat vowel, ah. And then a little further down, jaw dropped even further down, is ah, ah. And this is my father vowel, but I have a merger that makes calling it a father vowel really, really wrong. So a lot of times when people are talking about a father vowel, they're talking about this back one that looks like the A without the little thing on top. And that is not my vowel. I don't have that one. Eh? Eh. If we look at the back vowels and start at the top, you have oo. Back vowels usually, I say usually, I might just be Englishing this. But I feel like usually the back vowels are rounded, whereas the front vowels tend not to be. I think more often you end up with rounded back vowels and unrounded front vowels than you would the other way around. And there's acoustic reasons for that. It has to do with essentially extending the length of your special tube to make it so that, because the back vowels have like low formants, it makes it so that they're easier to hear. There's actually acoustic reasons why we tend to round back vowels when we may not do others the same. So, oo. Luffy loves special tubes. Who doesn't? Who doesn't love a special tube? Ooh, oh, oh. I just said that as a diphthong. I'm sorry. I'm trying to keep my vowels pure. Oh, ooh, oh. Those are very common vowels. Spanish has both of them. There's aw. This is, chat, remember to look at your special tube. Look after your special tube, right? Aw. Aw is one I don't have, but you'll hear it in the East Coast of the U.S. I want to get my coffee. If you ever heard aw, get my coffee. Otherwise, I only have it like in diphthongs, like oi, boy. I say it there. A boy, toy. I'm doing the aw. For our rounded back vowels. I do have the unrounded back version of that, though. The one that looks like an upside-down V. That is That is when it is stressed. But when it's unstressed, I actually go more central. You see the one that looks like an upside-down E? That's and is the most common vowel in at least American English. I think probably saying British English is far, far too broad. But if I think of like the rhotic Queen's English, I think they have some uhs in there too a lot. It's not the Queen's English anymore, is it? Oh no. I don't care. I don't have a monarchy. The variety in American accents is fascinating. The video of someone in Baltimore trying to say Aaron Earn and Iron Earn. Oh, I've seen that one. One of my favorites is a video of someone in Scotland trying to say purple burglar alarm. That one is funny. Purple burglar alarm. I have no problems, but that guy in the video, had many problems. This comes more down, though, I think, to, again, your phonotactics and things. Yes, you know who it was. It was Limmy. He tries to say it and then looks all confused. So, we've gone through front, we've gone through back. We've hit a little on central. But we could hit a little more on central. Central vowels. I do again. The guy who struggles with a kilogram of steel versus a kilogram of feathers. Yes. Yes, that guy. He streams on Twitch. Does he still stream? I'm pretty sure the video I'm thinking of is like 15 years old. But I might be wrong. Maybe it's not as old as I'm thinking it is. I remember going, oh wow, that's really old, when I shared it with my linguistics professor about 5 years ago. Well, he should rate me then. I'm kidding. I didn't know that. Maybe I'll have to catch up sometime. Where was I at? Oh, I was talking about central vowels. Central vowels, which I don't have many of, other than the Korean has some central vowels. I know that Korean has... Oh, now I'm thinking about Korean and I'm remembering something I forgot to talk about consonants. We're going to hop around. This is why this isn't a real class that you have to pay for. Because I just get to talk about what I want. Anyway, Korean has a central vowel. It is a high central vowel. Is what it is. It's kind of like if you have my accent and you want to think that something is gross, you might go, This is represented in Korean writing as just like a straight horizontal line. So now you know how to read that. If you ever see a straight horizontal line, you know that the vowel in that syllable is I. As long as there's no dots or anything above or below it, that changes it. Just a plain straight line. I can badly sound out Korean writing. I've learned that much Korean. Speaking of, let's go back to consonants, because I can't remember everything I want to talk about consonants. Actually, further. So, did I? Now I'm wondering if I added. I didn't. Okay. Shibao. So you can see here, there's diacritics. I'm gonna make this bigger so I can see it. And the diacritics, in the lower left, maybe I should make it bigger on this screen and not just bigger for myself because it doesn't actually look very good. One sec. Oh, is that not a Korean curse word? I don't know. I don't know enough Korean. I can say like 안녕하세요 or 안녕, 앉으세요. When we get to phonology, I do have a really funny story about my part of my Korean learning journey. One second here. I want to make this thing bigger. I got IPA chart. First of all, gotta make this smaller. Yeah, I don't care about the super segmentals. Let's ignore the super segmentals. Okay. There we go. Make this bigger. Make this bigger. Without thinking about Arrested Development. Oh. 안녕. I don't know that I remember enough Arrested Development for that. So here we have diacritics. And you can see we have things like marking, oh, we're going to mark it voiceless, voiced. One I want to talk about, and I mentioned dental as well earlier, but one I want to talk about is aspirated. It's the third one down on the left, and it looks like a little H. And this is when you have a breath of air come out. I aspirate a lot when I'm saying things that start with voiceless stops. You may hear a puff of air into my microphone, like party. But I don't do that with every P sound that I make. If I say spark, I don't actually aspirate like that. Korean has, now, what I wanted to do was I wanted to point out some of the limits of the IPA. Because you get into the IPA and you think, oh, it can represent everything. And the great thing about it is that you have one sound per symbol and one symbol per sound. That's the idea. That's the idea behind it. If you know how English spelling works, you know that's not the case in English. It is actually not the case in most languages, and it can't be, due to the fact that people speak the same language in different accents, and due to the fact that languages evolve. Look at Korean. People absolutely adore, love the Korean alphabet, the Korean writing system, Hangul. It is great. It's great. It's wonderful for Korean. And it was probably better for Korean when it first started, because when it was invented in the 14th century, I want to say, or the 1400s, one or the other, it was based on how Korean works. And like, it's great. It was phonetic for Korean at the time. But then the sounds of the language change, and writing does not change as fast as languages evolve when they're spoken. So no writing system is ever going to keep up with the sound changes. And that is even before you add in people have different accents. So you can never have an actual written writing system that people use regularly that is completely phonetic. That has one symbol per sound and one sound per symbol. And in fact, we don't even have that with the IPA, despite that being the goal, due to things like the fuzziness between what is a consonant and what is a vowel. If I say yeah, is that a sound represented by the letter I, followed by a sound represented by the letter E, tied together as a diphthong with one of those brackets, like I'm saying them at the same time? Or is it a glide represented by the letter J, followed by the sound represented by the letter E, yeah? Which one is it? Yeah? Who knows? So we still have things that come down to convention, even when we're trying to say, this is a system where we write one sound per letter, one sound per symbol, one symbol per sound. But that is the goal here, that you would never have two ways of representing the same thing, even though we actually do. Womp womp. On top of that, you then have languages like Korean. So the IPA is called the International Phonetic Alphabet. And you'll see I cut off there the super segmentals. It has all the accent or pitch stuff and tone stuff. Some Indian languages. India's crazy. Like, even the language that the most people speak there, less than half of the people speak it. So earlier, I was like, I think this sound works like this in India, but I even hesitate to say that because who am I talking about in India? There's so many languages. They have a ton of vowels, making it easy to pronounce words just by sounding it out, if you can say the vowels. Korean. Korean has, talking again about, oh yes, so much variety. I wanna go to India so bad one day. I love the art. I took an intro to art class, and there was a section that was like Indian art, and I was like, oh, yeah, I want to go there. I want to see the ancient art and the temples and stuff. They're so beautiful. Anyway, I should probably learn some history too, but that would yeah, definitely inspire me too. I'm just like there's carvings of beautiful ladies. Is that okay? Can I go for that? Yeah, India's crazy a lot of languages. Crazy lot. Trust me, the carvings are recent enough. I was really glad. So we were doing Zoom classes. True story. These are Zoom classes. It was 2020. And this picture, he throws this picture up on the slide. And of this carving of this woman. And I'm like, I literally gasped aloud. So loud that I had to double check to make sure my mic was muted. I was like, oh my god. Like, in wonder. It was beautiful, and now I want to go to India. Anyway, I wanted to talk more about the failings of the IPA for a second, and Korean would be one way to represent that, or one way that I would say the IPA fails. As you see, we have one little marker there for aspirated. And that is for, if you want to say, like I'm saying, pot instead of pot. You know, do I have that extra air? Korean, now you see we only have one mark for that, by the way. On or off, as if it is binary. But if you think about it, it's really not. You can control the amount of air that you let out. And Korean actually has a three-way consonant distinction based on aspiration. The one with the least amount of aspiration they call the tense consonants, which I have successfully made those sounds a couple of times, and it makes sense that they're called tense because you have to have your mouth very, very tense. But like things like appa and appa and apa are different. Like I'm probably doing it wrong, but they're different based on the amount of aspiration, the amount of air you're expelling with that consonant. Which is why I once had a slightly embarrassing experience of thinking I was being called daddy when she was saying ouch. So that's the difference, by the way, between appa and apa. Daddy or ouch. So the failings of the IPA. That's oppa, which is like Big Brother. And you also hear that I do watch a lot of Korean shows, which was what started me on the trying to learn Korean. Appa is dad. It's like daddy, and oppa is, it's like Big Brother, but it's also used romantically. According to the Census of India, 2001, India has 122 major languages. Yeah. Figures from other sources vary, primarily due to the difference in the definition in the terms language and dialect. You know what? You bring up a good point. You bring up a very good point. I'm going to finish my coffee and talk about the difference between a language and a dialect. First of all, what do you think is the difference between a language and a dialect? I should have said that before I drank my coffee, and then drank my coffee while I waited. Any guesses on what the difference is? You're Indian, and 1,599 seems like a lot. I wonder how many there are in Papua New Guinea. Not as many, but it's just much smaller. Okay. I was wondering if there were more because Papua New Guinea is hailed as the most linguistically diverse country, I guess. So, the difference between a language and a dialect, there is a very famous saying on this. It is, I don't think it was originally in English, so I'm paraphrasing either way. The difference between a language and a dialect is an army and a navy. It's political power. There are languages, I think Urdu and Hindi are mutually intelligible. I believe, I've heard this, but the writing systems are different, and they're called different things because politically very different. Like American versus British versus Australia. And we do still call ourselves all English, which is fine. But sometimes you get splits in things that like Hindi and Urdu, I believe. I'm hoping I'm citing the two correct languages here that sound like people can talk to each other. But, and they probably have accent differences, you know. But they are mutually, what linguists call mutually intelligible. You can understand each other. Even though you might think of them as completely separate languages, they use totally different writing systems. Then you get things like Chinese. So Cantonese and Mandarin, those two people, if they talk to each other, someone speaks Cantonese, someone speaks Mandarin, they cannot talk to each other. They can't understand each other. It is not mutually intelligible. But they use the same writing system. And so we call it Chinese. So, and saying it overlaps more with Arabic, it definitely uses the writing system. But when you get people and you get them to talk to each other, like Germans and Dutch can also very often understand each other. I think it's and again, when I'm saying Urdu and Hindi, I'm quoting what my teachers have told me. Okay, I don't know Urdu or Hindi. And it's an example of a phenomenon. You get this same thing a lot in most languages. Most languages are spoken by very few people, and you get the same thing in languages, you know, like village A that speaks language A, and village B that speaks language B. They might consider themselves to be speaking different languages, but you get a linguist who goes in there and is like, yeah, these are pretty much the same. They can understand each other. Yeah, things like that. So, Urdu and Arabic use the same writing system. That's different from what you're saying. Then yes, Urdu and Hindi make sense. Yeah, exactly. Urdu and Hindi use different writing systems. But if they're speaking, they should be able to understand each other, is what I've been told. But that we consider them to be different languages because of politics. It's politics. A lot of it is politics. And language, well, I speak a different language. This sounds much more prestigious and important than that person over there who just speaks in a dialect, which can sound a bit put downy, a bit like I'm better than them. I speak the real language, they speak a dialect. It can come across that way, and because it comes across that way, and because there is such a fuzziness, how do you define a language? Linguists tend to say language varieties. I'm curious, how far do you yourself have to travel before you notice a definitive change in dialects? I don't know. I mean, if I'm traveling across the US, when I'm gonna notice a change in dialect? I mean, I just go a couple states away, they're gonna have some terms I don't know. I'm thinking. Like, I don't really have trouble understanding anyone in any part of the US as far as I know. Maybe Appalachia. I would have trouble understanding them. In some parts of the South, I might. Oh, and there's this one island off the East Coast that still speaks a really, really preserved. We wouldn't say old form because they still speak it today, but it's been preserved. I will say, me myself, I'm like horrible at identifying accents. I know I should be better because I'm a linguist. Also, Capstan, hey, hello, hello. We're talking sounds, the sounds of language, phonetics. It's one of my favorite things. And we're talking special tubes. We all have special tubes. You're at work? Well, don't work too hard, but thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Are dialects and accents unrelated to each other? I wouldn't say they're unrelated. They are definitely related. I would say a particular dialect is probably spoken in a particular accent, but I'm kind of hitting different things when I say dialect and accent. When I say accent, I'm really just talking pronunciation. And when I say dialect, I'm also including vocabulary and perhaps changes in syntax and grammar. So definitely related, but a little kind of different things. So if I correct myself from saying accent to dialect, I am saying I want to include that maybe you don't even use these words. Essentially. Alright, where was I at? I told you the embarrassing story about the Korean aspiration system, right? When we were talking about vowels, right? I got on the Korean aspiration system because I thought about the Korean central vowel I. But there's a couple more vowels I want to talk to you about here, and those are the ones that aren't on the lines. You see, all the vowels are on lines, which again is just a way to organize them, but you can't put vowels into boxes. So you see the funny looking I and the funny looking Y and the funny looking U that aren't on the lines. These vowels are, well, I mentioned the Korean tense consonants. Yeah, we call these lax vowels. We say the other vowels are tense. Silly us, using tense to mean different things. Anyway, the funny I, if you go E, like you're gonna say in my accent the word beat, E, and then you want to change it, like you're gonna say again in my accent the word bit, like I bit someone in the past, but I don't bite anymore. A bit, beat, bit, I bit the beat. If you take your tongue and you go you notice it moves very little. And it's also the root of your tongue, sort of the back, becomes a little more relaxed, a little less tense, shall we say. You should be able to feel kind of towards the back what the root of your tongue relaxes ever so slightly. And the funny looking Y is the same thing. It's just with your rounded lips again. And then the funny looking U, that is So you don't have rounded. Your tongue again just relaxes a little bit, and you also have to unround your lips. But that's like if I say book, foot, as opposed to boot, foot, boot, or foot and food. These are again my accents. If you try to say the same words and you have a different accent, your tongue will probably be doing different things. But ooh. You try to mimic me, you should be able to get it. And then maybe find something in your normal speech that gets you somewhere near there with your vowels. And it's always fun to just say random stuff when other people are around and they don't know you're doing linguistics and you're just trying to feel where your tongue is in your mouth and how open your jaw is. Always fun. Remember I said that we were going to watch that video again after we looked at the vowels You remember that, right? So when you're doing your high E, tongue is front, it's up, and it's forward. If you're doing an ah, your tongue is going to be down, your jaw is going to be more open. So you want to see how these look, right? Because the person in this video is doing the vowels. Oh, I have to mute. I have to mute. So let's watch this, and then I think I will do another bathroom break. Here we go. So you could see where his tongue moved as he made all those vowel sounds, and where his tongue moved as he was making the different consonant sounds. I think it's so cool. I want to go back and look at the vowels again. This is just so clear. Look at the lips. And consonants. You could see actually when he does the N, if you watch the velum with these consonants, you can see when he's doing a nasal sound, N, versus when he's doing other consonants that are not nasal. See? N comes down, stays up. And you can hear he also aspirated that P. Anyway, wanted to make sure and share that with you after we talked a little bit about the vowel space and like where your tongue is meant to go. Because it's so cool when you can see it literally bunching up in the back or reaching forward. At least I think it's super cool. And then we are going to take a little break now because I need to have a bathroom break. I will turn the music back on. And I'm actually going to give you guys something to do while I have my little break. Oh, where did I put it? Where did I put it? If you can, I would love it if you guys could record some audio for me. And if you can upload an MP3 or a WAV or something, you can just use your phone if you have it, whatever's nearby. It doesn't try to eliminate background noise if you can, but it doesn't have to be perfect. I want to try to compare our accents. I think it would be really fun. And I have a program where we can literally look at, essentially look at our accents. I could talk. And we'll start with mine, and then we can compare and see how we're literally making different sounds in the air. But here's a sentence. If you can record yourself saying the sentence, and then give me just a link to somewhere safe. It's in .mp3 or .wav. My program can read MP3s or waves. And I'll load it up, give you guys a little listen. So I'm going to record some sound here, just me saying that same sentence that I asked you guys to say. Gotta make sure it's visible. Alright. Yesterday afternoon, I walked to the market to buy coffee, fresh bread, and 3 apples. On the way home, I saw a little dog chasing a bright yellow butterfly. So, this is a program called Prot. I think it means like word in like Dutch or something. People who made it are Dutch or Danish, and don't get upset that I can't remember which, please. Probably Dutch. Ah, yay, have another MP3. Perfect. Thank you. There we go. I should be able to download this, yes? Somehow. Ah, there's the download button. There we go. I got you. We'll look at you in a second. So, this is called Prot. And remember I mentioned at the very, very beginning of the stream that there's 3 types of phonetics. There's articulatory phonetics, which I've been talking about for the past 2.5 hours. And there's acoustic phonetics and auditory phonetics. Auditory phonetics has to do with it going into your ear and being processed by all of the bits inside of your ear that, you know, jiggle and have liquid in them and buzz, all that stuff, and also how that is interpreted by your brain. That's auditory, and then acoustic has to do with the sound waves in the air. And this, Prot, is a way we can look at acoustic phonetics. We can see the sounds that we are making, and we can say, you weren't making the sound you thought you were making, and I can prove it. Because I can see it on this spectrogram. You can't actually see a spectrogram right now because I'm not zoomed in far enough. All you see is the waveform. This would be the pause between my sentences here, I think. If we zoom in, all of a sudden these things appear. And this is a spectrogram. And what it shows is the frequency of the sound waves. And you see these dark lines here? These are called formants. And those are how we tell exactly which vowel sound a person is making. Every time you see those dark lines, those are pretty much all going to be vowels in my speech that happened. A bot followed you? I don't know. How do you remove bot follows? I haven't had that problem. I would have more followers if I'd had that problem. I think I've read on Reddit that Twitch will take care of the bots eventually. Just ignore them. Alright, Blue, I'm gonna push back on your little comment there. I'm gonna push back. Because you don't have a bad accent. Nobody has a bad accent. You speak English in your accent, and that is what it is. I speak English in my accent, and that is what it is. And we are not going to have any of this accent or this language variety is better than this language variety. Not in my stream. Nuh-uh. Nuh-uh. That's not how we do it. That's not how we think about it as linguists. Linguists are descriptive, not prescriptive. We look at the way people talk, and we examine the way people talk. And we don't say, this is the way people should talk. We say, this is the way people do talk. And that's far more interesting than saying, this is the way people should talk. Which, to be fair, that is what linguists did in the past. They used to be prescriptive, and linguistics used to be awful and just full of like, racist old white men, really. So, yeah, it used to be that way. And you'll hear rules still parroted by undereducated English teachers in middle schools around America who will say things like, never split the infinitive, to get into some syntax and grammar stuff. But this is wrong. This is not what linguists say. Linguists say people split the infinitive all the time. And also, that is an old rule from... It's decided by those racist old white men. And you know why they decided that? They decided that because in Latin, You literally cannot split an infinitive because an infinitive is a single word. So in English, an infinitive is to plus a verb. So to go, to see, to do. Those are infinitives. In Latin, it's just one word. It's the same in Spanish, and it's probably the same in lots of other Romance languages. I just don't know them. So you literally cannot split an infinitive in Latin. It's not that it's against the rules, it's that it's impossible. But we're not speaking Latin, we're speaking English. And these racist old white men were like, but Latin is the best, purest, most wonderfulest language that ever was. Jesus probably spoke Latin, he didn't. But, you know, we're talking these racist old white men with their ideas of prestige and what makes one language better than another. And so they are using that to declare on this other language rules that don't even make sense for it, right? So anyway, rants. I could rant. Classism, basically. Yes. Yes, it is classism, but it's also racism. I cannot downplay the racism in the history of linguistics. It needs to be said flat out. Like, there were people going in talking about the primitives and things like this. Azu is a good racist. Where I'm honestly think those racist old white men taught some of my school teachers. Yes, they did. They did. So, anyway, anything that's suggesting that one way of speaking is better than another way of speaking all goes in the racist old white man bin, and not in my stream. We don't do that here. We don't go for those silly rules. We go with descriptive. We say, how are people speaking? It must make sense because they understand each other, so let's study that. And let's figure that out. That's way more interesting anyway. Figuring out what people are actually doing rather than telling them what to do, right? Put balls in their jaw? What? You're reminding me of a scene from My Fair Lady where he stuck a bunch of marbles in her mouth. Are you talking about something like that? Because that guy, not to go on another rant, but if you've ever seen My Fair Lady, Professor Higgins is meant to be a linguist, but he is one of those racist old white man linguists who is a prescriptivist and not a descriptivist. Love My Fair Lady, but who do I have a bone to pick with Professor Higgins? There's no way Luffy is referencing My Fair Lady. No, I didn't think so. I did not hear a song. Sorry. If there's something I totally missed there. Or I don't know a song, whatever he's referencing. So, let's talk about how I talk, I guess. Not that you haven't heard enough of me. But this is a spectrogram. It's a song, okay. Do you not know the scene in My Fair Lady I'm talking about? Because My Fair Lady's all about teaching Eliza Doolittle to speak properly. You don't watch movies? Well, it's a fun one if you like musicals. I do have some bones to pick with the storyline, but it's older. The music's great, though. Anyway. Speaking of music, I should turn this back down. So you can hear me clearly, I suppose. You're adding both to your watch list? Nice. So I'm going to hit play here, and you can see this is just a small segment of what I'm saying. Remember, these dark lines here, these are formants. And all you need to know right now is that where you see these sorts of lines, is essentially it's going to usually be a vowel. Yesterday afternoon, I walked. I don't know how to turn it up more, so sorry. It's going to be a little quiet. Yesterday afternoon, I walked. So that's how much that is. And you can see this is yesterday. I'm going, yeah. Yeah. That's like E-A-H. e, eh. And if you say e and eh, and you say them faster and faster and faster, yeah, you're eventually going to get that yeah sound. And so what you see here is you see e, the vowels very far apart, to eh, they're closer together. Sorry, the formants. These two formants are really what we're interested in. Yesterday afternoon, I walked trying to find a place where I went E again. Let me look at my sentence. Walked to the market to buy coffee. Let me find where I said coffee. Is it over here? To the market to buy coffee. Ah, there it is. To the market to buy coffee. Fresh. E. See how far apart that is? These formants? And if you go back over here, where I started with yeah, they're also very far apart right there. Coffee. Yeah, so I have what is called the cot-cot merger. Cot-cot. I have to write the words down because I have a merger, and therefore I do not say them differently. But there are people who do not have this merger, and they might say cot. I can't even. Cot. No, that's too forward. Aw. Cot. I think it's like that. Cot. Um, and they say them differently, and you can't switch those vowels around. There's a difference in meaning. With the if you don't have the merger that I have. It's called the cot merger, and I have it. I also have the Mary merger. I would have heard a cock. I love chicken. So there's also Mary, and Mary. I say all of those the same, but there are people who will say all three of them differently because they have different vowels. I think it's like, and oh, I'm gonna get it wrong on which one is which, but probably Mary, and Mary, something like that. Hail Amy. Is it Amy? Is that how you say her name? Or Amy. Amy. Captain. Captain. See, I should know it because I said I was talking about affricates earlier. That's an affricate. Captain. I can say it. So, Captain, how are you doing? We are talking about pronunciation. And I didn't say, I just hopped right into it, but we're going to talk about identifying vowels in spectrograms. So to identify a vowel in a spectrogram, you want to look at this right here. You got 4 lines. These are formants. They're nice and dark, and you can easily see what they are. And in this program, this one moves like this. See right there? That moves. I think that means my tongue moved at some point while saying this. So I'm going to have 2 different vowels here. Let's see what it says. Noon, 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 ew, ew, ew. All right, what's the... I don't know if you can hear that very well. I know it's very quiet. Can I turn it up? Noon, noon, noon. So what's this part of? Afternoon. Noon, noon. Yeah, noon. I see that. I see what I'm doing there. That's me going ew, ew, ew. And you can see there's 2 different sounds here. Noon, noon, noon. You can hear those are different. And you put them together, you get my noon, 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 noon. Oh, it sounds fine in terms of volume? Oh, good. Oh, good. Maybe it's just very quiet to me. All right. So something like this will be one of those diphthongs, which diphthongs, again, they're 2 vowels that are shoved together so that they act like one vowel. like the word or the sound I. I. You start with ah and you go up to e. I. Which this looks like it might even be that. By nope. It is. By by see? Because I could tell this is low, these are very close together, and then they're very far apart, which means that it's a high vowel. And then front and back can also be read, I think it's how far down the lowest one is, but it's been a while since I've done it. You remember I was talking, and I said vowels are different for everyone. And it's amazing that we can understand each other when we all have our own special tube that makes our own special vowels, and no two people have vowels that sound the same. And then it all has to do with the relative distance in the vowels. These formants are what I was talking about. If at any point when we're looking at Blue's recording, if he makes the sound I, which may not be in the same place that I do, if he makes the sound I, you are going to see a similar shape to the formants. You're going to see them being close together here and then farther apart at the end. You'll see the same shape, the same relative shape, even though it will be in a different place on the Hertz scale, for example. So this was a diphthong where I said it was two vowels close together. This we can see is a monophthong. It's just one vowel. So it should sound like one steady vowel sound. Ah, 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 ah. And this is a lower vowel, ah. As I said, you've got this formant that's higher up than this one. Coffee, coffee, coffee. I love spectrograms so much. They're so much fun. And I really did just skip you to the hard part on the spectrograms because the vowels are the difficult thing. You end up listening to them a lot and trying to figure out where they're at to find your first points. But again, it's also like, and when I say to find your first points, I'm talking from my specialty, which is listening to languages that haven't been documented and documenting them, which means that you are listening to something that no one has ever designated a symbol to it on the IPA before. So, yes, we know that if it's a bilabial voiceless stop, we're going to use a P, right? But if no one's ever put the vowels down into IPA before, remember it's all a little bit of a squishy, fuzzy mess with the vowels. We call it a vowel space. Sometimes it's represented more 3D as like a bit of a cloud. Um, and I mean cloud like a bunch of clouds. Like you might hit the E sound, and what is an acceptable E sound for your language in a variety of spaces. Like your tongue could be, it doesn't have to hit the exact same spot every time. It could be in a range of places in your mouth, and people around you will accept that as you have made the sound that we call E. Um, and you can see basically those relative differences in the vowels. I just love it. I just love it. Okay. The consonants, though, are actually a lot easier to tell. Possum! The consonants are easier to tell on the spectrogram. They're a little tough on this recording because I think well, I know my mic does noise canceling, which compresses my voice, so it does make it a little harder to see my consonants. But let's take a look at them anyway. So you can tell fricatives. Remember I said fricatives have the turbulent airflow as opposed to being laminar? So fricatives look a lot like static on the spectrogram. So this would be the yes, the S in yesterday, right? It's hard to hear when I just play that, but if I play this, yesterday, yeah, yesterday, right there we've got our fricative. And depending on where you are articulating the fricative in your mouth. So where your tongue position is, or if it's like a bilabial fricative, this darkness is going to stretch down further or be higher up. And I think it stretches down further the farther back you are in the mouth. So a sh would be darker further down. It should be. Do I have a sh sound later on to look at, to compare to? Let's see. Walk to the market to buy fresh bread. If I find fresh bread, that was right after coffee. Fresh. Here we are. Shh. I was right. So that's another fricative. See, it looks all staticky, but it's darker further down than the one over here. And this is how linguists analyze. So you don't just listen, you also isolate the sound, you listen to the sound, and you look and you compare it. And I'm not just comparing the vowels, then I'm also going to be comparing things like the fricatives to try to see how far back they are being articulated in the mouth. Things like that. Stops are fun. Stops are always fun because you end up with these nice straight lines. Straight lines. Walked to the market. Walked to the market to buy coffee. Walked fresh. Walked to the market to buy coffee. Fresh. It can be difficult to determine exactly where your stop is at because the whole point of a stop really is that all of the sound actually does stop for a moment. You can see in this straight line here, that's when the release of air, the air was released out in that burst. So it can be hard to tell, but what you can tell is the formants, they're going to be, at the point of release, they're going to be a little bit closer to if you were saying a vowel at the point of articulation um, of wherever the consonant was. So if you're saying a B, or actually probably more like an N, your formant's going to look more like you're having like a higher, it should be a T or a D, but like you have a high vowel, a high front vowel. It might start to look like that, but then if you go to, say, a back vowel, they'll quickly find that space for the back vowel. And that's kind of one way where you can tell what stop you have. It can be a little tough on the stops, and sometimes you just got to listen, you know? And do you hear a back sound? Do you hear a front sound? Is that uvular? Is that velar? I have a tough time with that one, telling the uvulars and the velars apart. You just doing lots of possum reading? Thanks for the possums in the chat. So here's mine. Now I'm going to load up Blue's recording. Let's take a look at it. It'll take me just a second to get this loaded up. Open. I think I just put it in my downloads. All right. Kind of looks about the same. I should add, one second, I need to add an input for this. You excited, Blue? Oh, did that grab? Haha, it did. Nice. I didn't even have to do anything, I don't think. Set it to that one. There we go. You're excited. Okay. Now, if Blue really wants to troll me, here's the prime opportunity to have done so. I hear you're mean to Azu, so we'll see. Oh, let me make sure the audio is on this one. Make sure I got the audio set right. Yes, okay. No. Well, we'll find out now. Moment of truth, huh?
Yesterday afternoon, I walked to the market to buy coffee.
Ooh, I like your accent. You have a very nice voice. I like your voice. Ooh, it's very smooth. Oh no. Oh, was that the wrong one? That's someone else. Okay. So let's see here. Let's find your where you said coffee. There are two channels. Oh, can you not hear it? Oh, you just recorded a stereo. That's all. Is it echoey? Oh, hang on. Let me double check. I'm gonna try playing it again because I wasn't looking at the audio mix. Let me see what happens.
Yesterday afternoon, I
Ah,
yesterday afternoon I walked to the market to buy coffee.
so I have two sources and apparently it's duplicating the audio.
Yesterday afternoon, I walked to the
How's that?
market to buy coffee.
Is that better? Yeah, normal. Okay. Yeah, just turn off one of the one of the audio things so it's not playing it twice. Yeah. Not a reference to this. Thank you for catching that. Okay, where was your coffee at? Your coffee was around here.
Yesterday afternoon, I walked to the market to buy coffee.
There we are, coffee. You did not make a mistake. Now, that was my OBS. So here, look at this. We can see the stop. This is your stop for your K, 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 k. And then there's your aw and your fricative, F, f, and then E. And you can see these lines, these formants, that's the word. I know the words. They're very far apart, right? For the E.
E, 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 coffee, coffee.
And we both went up in pitch there too, I think. I'm pretty sure I went up in pitch there, even though we're not talking about pitch right now. I'm pretty sure I also went up in pitch when I said coffee. Oh, I'm at the end. Was this it? I walked. Nope. But you can see here, remember I mentioned earlier with my accent, I put the glottal stops in front of words that start with vowels? That's a stop. You can tell it's a stop because it's got that straight line, even though what I said was I walked. I walked. I walked. I walked. Let's see. Do you do that? Do you do that, Blue? Do you put glottal stops in front of um your words that begin with vowels?
Yesterday afternoon, I walked to the market to
No.
buy.
Look at this. Look at this. See how different that is? Oh, you know what? I was showing mine and I don't know if it flipped. It didn't. You couldn't see me looking at mine. Okay. Here is, I'm sorry for not showing that. I will show you clearer. Here you say I and you start saying I.
I walked. I
I
walked.
walked. I
I walked.
walked. And then I'm going to show mine. Here we are. This is where I start saying I. I walk, I walk, I walk. And you can see that straight line. And that is because of the glottal stop that, as a typical American English variety speaker, I tend to insert that before words that begin with vowels. And you can literally see it there on the spectrogram. I have a stop. And you can tell that it's quite far back also from where those formats start. As opposed to Blue, who does not have that stop. It's much smoother.
I walk, I walk, I walk.
Isn't that cool? Ah. Oh, I'm just tickled. I'm just tickled. All right. Oh, what else can we find? What else can we find? It's so subtle, but it's there, right? And this is sort of thing, if you wanted to become like really good at doing an American accent, you've got to learn how to do the glottal stops that I do without even thinking about it. It's just normal. And it makes editing those reading videos so much easier because it gives me a nice little pause. I can put a cut in those spots, and I probably would have a much harder time, Blue, editing videos of you reading because I wouldn't be able to put cuts in those little spots as easily. He is so much smoother, right? I said when I listened to it, that was the first word I said, I think, was smooth. And that might be why. Because I'm cutting up my speech all the time with these stops that are totally unnecessary, and none of us are acknowledging.
Walk to the market to buy coffee, fresh bread, and
Oh, I think I heard the what's the word I'm looking for? The R, the D there. Are we still on me? No, we're on you. Fresh bread. I think the retroflex D. I think you have it. I think you have it. I'm smooth. So let's find that again. Let's find that again. Where'd you say fresh bread?
fresh bread and 3 apples. Bread, 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 bread,
It's a different R from mine too, but I'm interested in the D.
and, and, and,
It's hard to hear on its own because it is a stop, but I think you might have the retroflex stop there with the D. Now he's gonna be talking about this for days.
fresh bread and
You guys hear that, right? It's not like my da da da. It's more like da bread.
fresh bread and
I'm interested in the D. You know, quotes you don't get often from a lesbian. But linguistics makes us all say funny things.
fresh bread and
I like it. And the R you can also tell is different from mine.
fresh bread, fresh bread,
I think you might have a flap there with your R, perhaps?
fresh bread, fresh bread,
Whereas then if we compare to mine, let's find where mine is. To the mark. I'll pop over on it for a second. Just let me find out. Here we are. That's supposed to be it. Fresh. Yeah. Okay. I'll show you mine. Fresh bread and fresh bread and so this is my D. And then we look at was this one?
and
Where'd it go?
bread and 3 apples.
Yeah, it was this.
And
I think there's like a r. Yeah. Like the T in your butter. Yeah, that's the flap. Correct. Correct. And mine goes bread and see look at this right here, these lines. Oh, that's an American bread, bread, bread. And yours is it goes up still a bit, but you can see the little flap there, right there actually.
bread, 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 bread.
Oh, so much fun. I am having so much fun. Did I tell you guys that phonetics is my favorite thing? Except perhaps maybe second to phonology. Perhaps.
On the way home, I saw a little dog.
Because here's the thing. We talk about phonology. We Blue and I, we are making different sounds. We know that we're making different sounds. We can hear that they are different sounds. But if I say B and a B sound, Blue knows what a B sound is. Even if our B sounds are slightly different or our R sounds are slightly different, we still know what it is. And if one of us were to substitute, say, the R sound in bread for an L sound, for example, we would both agree that the word is no longer bread, even if our R sounds are different and our L sounds are different, right? If we switch it, we're both going to agree that, like, if I start saying bled, you're going to agree. I'm no longer saying bread, I'm saying bled. It's a different word. And when we have a change in sound that results in a change in meaning, what we have is a change in phoneme. So we've been talking so far about sounds as they exist, as they actually are. Those are called in linguistics phones, like phone, like a telephone, phone. You thought I said phrenology. We're getting back to the racist old white man science. No. Phonology, which is one of my favorite things. It really is. And phonology is how we think about the sounds that we make. It's the sounds that we think that we're making, which isn't necessarily the sounds that we are making. This is when Blue and I talk. If we were to sit down and speak, we wouldn't be necessarily, unless this was the topic of conversation, picking apart the differences in our accents, right? When Blue says, uh, the flap says bread. I can't even do it, sorry. Bread. You did a different vowel. I'm not even doing the right vowel. I'm sorry. Trying to say what you said. Um, like basically what I'm saying is that he uses sounds in his word that I categorize as being the same in a certain way. His R is an R to me. It falls into the R bucket, which is different. Like we say different things, but we understand each other because of phonology, and we're able to bucket things into similar into groups. We group them. I think of them as brain buckets personally. Um, but yeah, it's the way we group the sounds, the way we think about them, and sometimes you don't even know that you're making a different sound because you just think you're making the sound that is like the title of the category in your brain. And this is phonology. Let's talk about phonology. Not phrenology. Phonology. Alright. I don't have any fancy slides, anything fancy to look at for this one. So let me just get you back to the game. No one is here to listen to me talk. Oh, could we look at your recording too? I'm sorry, another damn peasant. Did you like a recording? I must have missed it. I would absolutely love to look at your recording. There it is. I'm so sorry. I totally missed it. We're not going to talk about phonology. We're going to look at another damn peasant's recording. I lied. Turn that back down. I was absolutely not moving on because I didn't want to look at it. I just totally missed it, and I'm sorry. Let me open it up. And annotate. Okay. I don't know why I'm putting annotation on these. I really don't need to put the annotation on. Oh no, here we go. Oh, did you decide to troll me? I hope not. So let's see. This one's mine. This one should be blues. I'm a possum again. Is that the time? It's possum time. All right, let's listen to another damn peasant.
Yesterday afternoon, I walked to the market to buy coffee.
You also have a nice smooth voice. Ooh. You guys can hear that okay? I forgot to check if it was going out on the correct number of outgoing things.
Yesterday afternoon,
Yes.
I walked to the market to buy coffee.
So what we get? Coffee was down here.
Buy coffee. 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 Coffee.
We can see the formants are a little harder to see in this one, which does happen sometimes. It's not a big deal. But we can see in the E, they are farther apart. Where Bear Grylls teached how to cook a rat. I am not a rat. I am a possum. Rats are not as nice as possums, I guess. What was the other thing we were looking at? Oh, right. It was this. Spread. No. Well, we were looking at the R's. Let's find your R's. Your R and your D and your D. Yeah. We're going to look at your D.
Fresh bread. Fresh bread. Fresh bread.
And that is absolutely not a retroflex D. You can hear that, right?
Fresh bread. Fresh bread.
And the R is a retroflex R like mine.
Bread. Bread. Bread.
The vowels are different, of course. But our consonants are surprisingly similar there, I think. I wanted to look, though, at where was that spot where you could see my glottal stop? Where was that? See, I put the annotation thing on here and I haven't annotated anything. I should have been annotating. Walked to the market to buy coffee, fresh bread, and 3 apples. Was it here? The and 3 bread and 3 the and and 3 apples. And 3 apples. Use the voice notes app. Where was that? I moved around on Blue Keeps too. I'm trying to find where I had that glottal stop. And we were able to see that glottal stop so well. And how Blue did not have it. So I'm listening to different spots. Ah, that's where it was. It was towards the very beginning, right? Yesterday afternoon. Yeah, it was here. I walked with the I. So let's find another damn peasants and see if he does an American-like glottal stop at the beginning of his word that begins with a vowel sound. I gotta read. Oh, iPhone mic is good. iPhone mics are pretty good, yeah. Peasant, has anyone told you you have an amazing voice? It's a great voice. Now I'm reading your messages with an English accent. Scottish.
Yesterday afternoon, I walked to the market to buy coffee.
And let's be fair to Blue. Um, I am also horrible at accents, and I am a trained linguist. So we'll say that people who aren't trained linguists, perhaps, will be gentle on accent identification. So where was that I again?
Yesterday afternoon, I walked to the market to buy
Ah!
coffee.
Oh my gosh, you don't have it either. You don't have it either. Look at this. Look at this.
I walked. I walked. I walked.
No glottal stop. That's just me, 'cause I'm American. I don't know if Canadians do that too. Canadians might as well might also do that. Oh, my apology. Can I speak a rat language? So yesterday, remember, we talked about what makes language language. And part of it is that only humans do it. Only humans. And if somehow we found an animal that could do all the things that we know human language can do, all the ways we've defined it, we would have to change the definition so that it still only applies to human language. Because that is what language is something only humans can do. Yeah, it's sort of a posh Scottish, if you're to believe the occasional bit of mockery I got after school because of my voice. I'll believe it. I'll believe it. So I mentioned that this is a stream where we are like no accent is better than another, but we already know damn well that the world doesn't work that way, right? And things like prestige dialects and prestige varieties and prestige languages do exist. Um, used to be French for the English speakers. Used to be French. Um, well, you want to speak of ratatouille? I'm actually about to bring it back around to food because I don't know if you know this, but in a lot of languages, they don't have completely different words for animals based on whether or not you are eating them. In English, we do. We have pigs and we have pork. We have chicken and we have poultry. Um, we have cows and we have beef. We have sheep and we have mutton. And not every language does this. It's actually a little weird, and it comes from the history of the English language and uh, the fact that in the past, French was the prestige language, and English was just seen as some vulgar thing with no real anything to it. Like it's not a real language, not the way French and Latin are. Remember, we can't forget the Latin supremacy and of the linguists at the time, I should say. And French is directly descended from Latin, while English is not. English is a Germanic language, which means it comes from the same Germanic sources, German and Dutch. So, when the rich people, the fancy people, the prestige people, the people with power, what did they want to speak? Did they want to speak the ugly, base language of the commoners? No, they didn't want to do that. They wanted to speak the prestige language of the rich, of the French. Of the French. And so when they had food and they ate their stuff, they used the French words for it. And so the French words kind of have morphed into what are now the English words for the foods. While the people who so the rich people, they ate them. They didn't raise the animals, but they ate them. So they called the foods by the animal names in French. And then the people who spoke English, who raised the animals, they called them by the names in English. So that's how we get the split between cow and beef and sheep and mutton and all of that is from that historical linguistic prestige that was totally misplaced. What was that? Luffy no chin chin wa desu? I can't say it. Luffy no chin chin wa chisai desu? At least your waveform is smooth.
afternoon, I walked.
All right, I'm going to listen to a little more. See what we have over here.
Apples. On the way home, I saw a little dog chasing a bright.
Oh. So there you go. See, I should have just made sure we played the word home, and then you never would have mistaken him from being anywhere else.
On the way home, I saw a little dog.
Right? I'm bad at accents, but I could tell you were from England by playing that. Am I still showing you? I'm not. Am I? Yes, I am. This I want to delete. So let's look at that. Let's look at these vowels. Let's find home on everyone's.
On the way home, I saw a little.
All right, we got a bit of mix here, I think.
On the way home.
Here's this your huh. There's your oh. We found that. Let's find mine. Let's look at mine. It's gonna be somewhere around here. This looks like it might be it. I'm gonna guess. I think this is my H, and I think this is my M. Nasals are a little lighter gray than other sounds, but they do still have the lines through them because they are what is called sonorant. That means you can hold them. Remember I talked about the open nasal cavity passage that allows the air to go and you can hold your M's forever? Sounds that you can do that with are called sonorants. So trills are technically sonorants as well, because you can just keep doing them. Anyway, because it's a sonorant, it still has formants, even though it is a consonant. So I think this is my home. Home. There we go. Home. 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 So my O. Home. Home. Oh, I still got a little H in there. Let's get the H off. Home. 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 So that's me. This other one again. Home. 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 Oh man, we sound so different. Now let's find blues. Let's find blues. Let's find blues home vowel. This is so much fun for me. All right, can I find it by sight like I did my own? Not so sure. Not so sure. Around here?
So a little
Nope. I saw this and thought maybe that was the fricative, but we are more like here, I think.
whom,
There we go.
whom, 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 whom.
All right, so this is blues vowel. I know you can't see. I'm still on mine. Let me pull up blues vowel here.
Whom, 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 whom.
And let's look at mine. Home, 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 home. And then another damn peasants. Oh, that's so cool. We're all making different sounds. Every single one of us. But we have all put those sounds into the same bucket, the same phonetic bucket. We say this sound has meaning and it fills this particular slot in the pattern of our language, the pattern of sounds in the language that we're sharing. You can really hear the American in mine. Oddly, that's really not that odd. I do have a very thick American accent. Of course, most people have a very thick accent of where they're from. That's just how accents work. But Americans' O's We do turn it into a diphthong and make it long. You could see mine was literally longer. We can even look down here. This is milliseconds. Yeah, I have yours up. This is in milliseconds. If we look at blues, 1.64. This I think is a little longer than yours, than Another Damn Peasants, and then mine was. Oh, actually, mine's a little shorter. Mine's a little shorter than blues. Blues has the longest. It's odd that you can pick it up from one tiny sub 1 second bit of audio, right? No, it's crazy. We have these patterns in our head, and you know that where you're from, people don't make the O in that spot, right? You know where it's supposed to be phonetically. You know that it's an O. It goes in the O bucket, but nobody uses that to make an O where you're from. That's in America. We say that in America. So, yeah, it's super cool. Um, we've evolved for this so well, so well. And remember, these same things also apply to signed languages, though I cannot expound too much on how because I wasn't taught. But the shape of hands, the way you hold your fingers, exactly where you're going to be holding your hands on your body, how high up, how far down, to the side or not, how much you move. These are variations that you would see in signed languages, similar to how we're seeing variations here. So, I have a question for you now. What is a tree? We're flipping over to phonology, and I'm gonna whet your appetite a little bit, and then I guess you'll just have to wait till Saturday, which is when I'm planning to stream next, to find out more. But right now, what is a tree? And I know I already got you with the trick "what is a word" question earlier. But what is a tree? Do you know what a tree is? It's a number? It would be in some accents. More than 2, less than 4. In some accents, not in my accent. I do have the voiceless dental fricative. So I do say 3. But a tree. Like most people might say it's something like a plant with a woody trunk and branches and leaves, maybe. Although if you're from where I'm from, you might think of a tree as having pine needles instead of leaves. Right? But what if I told you that there is no such thing as a tree? A piece of vegetation that is vertical and branches off with leafy foliage. That's a good question. But I've just pulled the rug out from under you. Thank you, Another Damn Peasant, for participating. But what if I told you there's no such thing as a tree? But then again, context-wise, it changes. Exactly. Like, what's a tree in Hawaii is different from what's a tree in Nepal, right? Is this how vegetables are not a thing? I don't know how vegetables are not a thing, so maybe. I'll tell you how trees are not a thing. And then you tell me if it's how vegetables are not a thing. But when I say trees are not a thing, I mean that there's no such thing as just a tree. It's gonna be a birch, or a fir, or a lemon tree, or it's a type of tree. It's not just a tree. Does that make sense? There's no such thing as just a tree. There are trees. There are things that we call trees. We take these things and we put them into the category of trees, right? But you can have, at least in English, the exact same species of plant could be a tree or a bush, depending on if it grows more up or if it grows more out, right? So it's not necessarily dependent on the species. And if you know about palm trees, if you've heard about those, they don't have woody stems like other trees. They're different. So tree itself is more of a concept that we use to categorize our world than it is an actual fact. Does that make sense? Tree is a bucket. It's one of those mental buckets into which we may or may not throw a plant. Bush being another mental bucket into which we may or may not throw a particular plant. Leylandi is often used as bushes or hedges and referred to as such, but it is a tree. Right, exactly. So I'm arguing, yeah, there's no such thing as a tree. There's no such thing as, but it's all, we've constructed it. We've decided. We've drawn out these delineations, and we say this is bush, this is tree. Sometimes it has more to do with the function it's filling than with what it was made as. You know, like I could take a box and use it as a chair, and it's a chair now, right? So the same thing goes with language and with sounds. And we've just been talking about the sounds you actually make. But in language, I mean, you're not talking most of the time. Unless you're learning a new language, you're probably not thinking about what your lips and what your tongue and what your, oh my goodness, what your vocal folds are doing. Do you think about that every time you voice them? No. No, you don't. Like I ask what Leylandi is, and you say... I just assumed it was a species of bush or tree, and left it at that. So, essentially, whenever I'm making a T sound or a D sound, I'm not thinking about whether... Well, let's go with T's, because we all know Americans have our flaps intervocalically. We've talked about that. My butter, right? My butter T in the middle. I don't think about it. I'm not thinking, I gotta do a flap here because it's intervocalic, right? It's between two vowels, so I can't say butter. Then I will sound like maybe I'm from a different place than I am. I don't think that. I just speak the way I speak, and that's how we all speak. It happens almost automatically. Obviously, you learned it at some point, but, you know, muscle memory becomes automatic. In seriousness, it's an evergreen tree, but yeah. But also, yeah, you're trolling. I appreciate the double effort. Where was I at? I'm explaining phonology, you guys. Basically, when you're talking, if you're thinking all about what you're saying, you're thinking in terms of mental buckets, what we call phonemes, the sounds that you think you're making. The sounds that you're actually making, which I called phones earlier. When we're talking about phonology, we call them allophones. They are the different sounds you can make that all fit into the same bucket. So for me, I have t and I have r, and they both fit into the T bucket. I also have a glottal stop that will fit into that T bucket that I use often at the end of a syllable or at the end of a sentence. So like if I want to say the word cat, but it's at the end of my sentence, I will very often end that actually with a glottal stop, cat. So glottal stops go into my T bucket, essentially, if that makes sense. So I've got regular T, I've got an unreleased T, which I just did there when I said got. All sorts of different T sounds, and they're all different from each other, but I stick them all into the T bucket, and I don't think about which one I'm using when I use it. They get pulled out at the correct time, according to the rules of the language, and all the languages have different rules, and finding those rules is super fun. That's the part of phonology that I really, really enjoy, and I'll have to talk to you about that on Saturday, because I did not prepare lots of phonology stuff for you today. I'm really only prepared to give you the trees aren't real and we have buckets in our heads talk right now. Do you guys have any questions? And I hope you are really enjoying this, because I am having a great time and I can keep going. Chat, today we've learned that we all have smooth voices, but Blue's is the smoothest. Blue, you really do. You have a wonderful smooth voice. And you know what I didn't do that I should do for both of you? Is play both of your recordings in full just so that we can enjoy them. Just in full. I immediately went in and zeroed in on different bits of your voices. But let's play the whole thing, because I want to hear the whole thing from both of you. How smooth both of your voices are. So, let's start with Blue. Oh wait, I don't have it visible. I'm sorry. I have to actually make it visible or you can't hear it. I don't think... Yeah, it wasn't up so you could hear it. That's my bad. Okay. We're gonna listen to Blue. Yes. I've always been a little insecure about my voice, so I appreciate the kind words. You have a great voice. Great voice. We're all gonna hear it in full now.
Yesterday afternoon, I walked to the market to buy coffee, fresh bread, and 3 apples. On the way home, I saw a little dog chasing a bright yellow butterfly.
Ah. I love it. You do. You have a nice, wonderful, smooth voice. Okay. Next one. It's been nice. Oh, good. I'm glad you have been enjoying it. Okay. Now, let's listen to you, Another Damn Peasant. You've all heard me enough today, probably. You know, one thing I didn't look at was rhotic accents versus the non-rhotic accents, but I don't know. I think we all have rhotic accents. I wasn't paying enough attention to whether or not Blue has a rhotic accent. Oh! Oh gosh, I'm sorry. That's my bad. Let's try that again. I listened to it. I get to listen to it twice. Here you go.
Yesterday afternoon, I walked to the market to buy coffee, fresh bread, and 3 apples. On the way home, I saw a little dog chasing a bright yellow butterfly.
So rhotic accents versus non-rhotic accents is a lot of fun. Not sure if you guys know what the difference there is. A rhotic accent, I have a rhotic accent. That means that if you see an R written down, I'm gonna say it. Non-rhotic accent's gonna be like your prototypical English accent. Your King's English is a non-rhotic accent. If you have an R at the end of most words, you will not say it and would instead lengthen the vowel. Except if you have 2 words where the vowels go up next to each other, then they insert an R that doesn't belong. Am I being judgmental? I shouldn't be. I said not to. I said that wasn't allowed on my stream. But that's the difference between a rhotic accent and a non-rhotic accent. And once you know, like, the pattern, it's always regular, these sound changes. We're going to talk about it more on Saturday, I guess, when I'm talking more about phonology and how these allophones are regular. You know, Jeremy Irons isn't Scottish, but you're imagining a young version of him in glasses. It is such a nice, smooth... You guys both have great voices. Great voices. You should be on Twitch reading things aloud, too. You do actually wear glasses? Oh no, blue. Oh, were you streaming on Sunday? I'm planning to stream on Saturday so far. Which I think is actually 4th of July, but I stream in the morning, so it shouldn't be a big deal. And also, who cares about the 4th of July? um, so I'm planning to stream again on Saturday. Was there something else I was gonna say? No. Absolutely no idea why the clip isn't getting posted on your Twitch account. Alright. Thank you for the clip. I forgot what I was saying. I was talking about something. You have distracted me. So on Saturday, we'll talk about phonology, I guess. Unless I decide that I want to play the game instead, which I might do. It might also depend on how much preparation I'm able to get done. I said to my kid yesterday, I said, you know, if my Twitch chat really wanted to troll me, you know what they could do? They could activate this talk about linguistics thing. Let me prepare this whole phonetics linguistics lecture, and then when I start, they could turn off the stop talking about linguistics. But you didn't do that. You didn't troll me like that. Thank you. By the end of this linguistics stream marathon, we need a reading list. I'd like a reading list, please. I could probably come up with a reading list. Woohoo, celebrating 250 years of American independence with a Lawrence stream. You know what? It's better than other things that are going on, I think. And you need to save up for the redeem anyway. The redeem to stop me? It is expensive. It is a bit more expensive than the redeem to start me talking about linguistics. So anyway, let's talk about phonology tomorrow. Phonology is one of my favorite things. It is where you get the funny story, or not tomorrow, Saturday. But I have a funny phonology story